Line's good.
Never on.
Close.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham, Scott alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
Sean, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
Time
There's
to
only-
clean out our curling lockers.
Yeah.
And bid farewell to the season. How are you?
Yeah,
taking
the season is wrapping up. It's been interesting. I did clear out my locker over at the Ottawa Curling Club on Thursday night. There's nothing left in there, Scott. I even took the lock off, as was, I believe, the instruction last year. I have no idea if that was the instruction this year, but I don't know. I've left it on before, but last year she asked us to take it off, so I did. So who knows? But yeah, the season's done, Scott. For us at the recreational level, the club championship is currently going on. Just missed it by a hair this year.
Just a hair. But you know, we had a good game in our last. Went out on a win, so hope to carry those positive vibes over to next season.
Yeah, so I tallied up. I keep a spreadsheet. I started doing this a few years ago. So I have done the tally. Scott, in the games in which I participated this season, I went 19-11 in the 30 games in which I played.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'll certainly take that. And when I tallied up the totals for those games, teams that I was on scored 200 points right on the button and gave up 158 points for a plus 42 differential. So overall, I think that's pretty doggone good for the season.
Analytics tell me that's pretty good.
Yeah, so no complaints there. But yes, the season is done for us. The season not quite done for all those teams competing at the highest level. A couple of events just wrapped up. A couple of events, one has already started. Another one is getting set to kick off this week. But Scott, I wanted to talk about the mixed doubles in some detail. But before we get to that, let's just wrap up the seniors real quick. The World Senior Curling Championship wrapped up in Geneva, same city as the Mixed Doubles Championship. On the women's side, you would never guess who would win a Women's World Championship. It is the Swiss. The domination of Swiss women extends to the 50-plus bracket as well. They knock off the field. Sherry Anderson was going for yet another World Senior Championship, was unable to do it. So congratulations to Switzerland. The Americans and the Scots round out the podium on the women's side. On the men's side, Canada does capture a World Championship this season. They beat the Czechs in the gold medal game. Sweden comes out with the bronze in what, from all accounts, was a pretty good game against Germany in that bronze medal game. A couple other things just I wanted to note, or one other thing I wanted to note. Belgium in Group C on the men's side, 4-2. Jerry actually emailed us after their first two games that they split. And he said, hey, we're encouraged. We're looking forward to the rest of the week. We think we have a chance here. And they did, obviously, going 4-2. They miss out on the playoffs because they lost to Scotland. And that was the tiebreak for the third position there out of Group C. So that would have gotten them the guaranteed spot in there out of the Group C. And then in terms of the third place finishers, they were tied with both Italy and Switzerland at 4-2. And on the last shot draw, the way I read this, they were third out of the third place team, so missed out. But great week for Belgium. Always fun to see different teams in there doing well. But so that's just a bit of summary of the seniors. Did you see anything over the course of the week, Scott, that you wanted to mention as well?
Well, not specifically, but the Czechs were also 4-2 and came out of that mess of tie breaks to go on and capture the silver medal. So it truly was anybody's game once you got to the playoffs. So good showing there by Team Belgium and all the players and all the teams. Nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we see a bit more balance next year where we have some more women's teams participate. Again, it's an open event, so anybody can register a team, any member association. So hopefully we get to see that. And again, congrats to the champions. The other event that did just wrap up, as mentioned, the mixed doubles world championship. Scotland rides tall again, but this time it's Bobby Lamley and Eve Muirhead capturing the gold medal, a double gold season for Eve Muirhead. Scott, is that a better season for Eve Muirhead than Nika Dean's double gold?
I think that she didn't get the chance to play in the women's world, so I don't think it's better than four-person gold medals, but it's like if it's a podium, it's not a full second place podium. It's like halfway up towards the number one. It's really, really good. And Bobby Lammy, a great year for him being part of Bruce Mowatt's team. Eve called him the best sweeper in the world at one of her post-game press conferences, and he's not a bad shot maker too. We'll say that. So big time win for them, and playing against Sven Michel and Alina Pats, a tough duo in those two. So no small feat to win this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Really good run for them. I would say when you don't lose, you've had a pretty good week.
Good run.
Yeah. So good job by them. Congratulations to Lammy and Muirhead. I just say the Swiss with the silver medal there. On the bronze medal side, it is Germany that comes out and beats the Ramsfelds of Norway in the bronze medal match, a 7-5 game. Scott, you said you watched one of the semifinal games featuring Germany, but I would suggest, based on your summary of that game, that bronze medal result might be a bit of a surprise.
I was a little surprised. The thing about the German team is they were taking on difficult shots that had high reward. I think they sensed, okay, we're playing. The game I watched was their semifinal against Scotland, and I got the feeling they were like, well, if we don't do something big, like we're obviously going to lose. So they took a few chances and were like really close, just like ticking guards and stuff, which put them behind the 8 ball. But they had a really great week. Come out and get the bronze. I don't know that anybody would have expected that. One of the things I noticed about the week was the pools were a little tough. Anyway, I thought that Canada's semifinal matchup was harder playing Norway than the second place team in the other pool crossing over and playing whoever they played, which I can't.
So I just Sweden, Germany was the other match.
Yeah, so like Sweden had to play Germany, and I thought, oh well, that's going to be easier for Sweden than Canada playing Norway. And little did I know, or did I expect, both of the third place teams came through and won and got into those semifinals. So and then obviously we get the top teams in each pool making the final, so it sort of shook out the way you'd expect on that front.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look too at the results from the two pools, because we talked about it when we looked at the preview of this, that we thought, well, maybe Group B is maybe a little tougher because it has both Scotland and Canada in there, and they kind of lap the field. Scotland doesn't lose. Canada only loses to Scotland. So everybody else is automatically given those two losses from those two games as a result. And then it was kind of that battle for third place. So you had Germany, the Americans, Hungary was in there for a little bit. Australia got off to a tough start, come back to 4 and 5. So you were looking at that, those pools there. Do you have to answer that, Scott?
No, I don't know who it is. I kept my ringer on because usually my sounds come through my earphones, but I guess when it's a phone call, you don't get phone calls much nowadays.
You really don't. So anyway, when you look at those teams between the Germans, the Americans, the Hungarians, maybe they're not quite as strong as whoever was going to come in at third place in Group A when you had, obviously, the Norwegians get it, Italy and Japan both at 6-3. But I would argue that the bottom of Group A was perhaps weaker than the bottom of Group B. So overall, I think the strength of the pools was even. If you sort of look at them top to bottom, you just have a bit of a top heavier group in B, maybe a little more balanced throughout in A, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's, Scott, talk about the Canadians real quick. Jocelyn Peterman, Brett Gallant, they go through 8-1, but as you say, lose in that crossover game. But I don't know, man. I've not really been the biggest believer in Jocelyn Peterman as like a top level player. She's obviously a high level player, but what she did on Friday, and I figured out why I think that. It's a ridiculous reason, and I recognize it's a ridiculous reason. I figured out what my bias was, and good for me for doing that, and I'm going to try to overcome that moving forward. But what she did on Friday, or Thursday, excuse me, that was a free clinic for anybody who happened to be watching that game on Friday, where she made 2 just insane shots in that game.
Yeah, just incredible shot making, breaking the hearts of American curling fans everywhere with that long angle raise, perfectly placed, not thrown too hard, swept well, managed. What a great shot. And apologies to our American friends for the destruction inflicted on them by the ice cold Jocelyn Peterman.
Yeah, just stone cold. The second one where she makes that crazy angle run from a shot that, as you're watching it, if you only watched the highlight of it and it's out of her hand, you're thinking, why do they have a highlight of her throwing it away? She's throwing it into the boards. Like, when this isn't what you're supposed to do. And then she makes it from a stone that really was, 8 inches away from being out of play and on the boards. It's just a remarkable control of the angles. And what somebody said to me, I think it was Glenn, who I crow with, said what stood out to him about that shot was just how quiet they both were throughout. Like, no real urgency in the line call. Just like, oh, weight's good, line looks okay. And then they make it, and there's no big cheer. They're just like, yeah, of course.
Just like,
of course we made it. Obviously.
Yeah, we were going to make it. We told you we would, and we did.
Yeah. So tough way for them to end the week with that loss in the crossover game. But overall, I would say a very good week for them as we look at the results. Certainly 8-2 overall. Nothing to sneeze at there. When we look at the relegation round, Turkey and New Zealand win a combined 1 game. So Turkey 1-8, New Zealand goes 0-9, so they are relegated. And then in the crossover relegation games, it was Finland and Spain who lose those games, so they also will be relegated and have to qualify again next year.
Yeah, not a real big surprise, I don't think, for anybody that watched all week. So, they'll try their best to get back for next year and go from there.
Yeah. Now, one of the teams that was in the game, the relegation game, was England, who I picked to make the playoffs. So the Fowlers, personally disappointing to me. I thought they had a chance. I don't think they played that bad when you look at some of the peripherals around them. They didn't play terribly, but obviously not good enough.
Not good enough. No. Yeah, a tough week for them. They would have expected to do better themselves.
Yeah. All right, Scott, I wanted to talk about the power play in mixed doubles. We have talked on the show before about how conversion on the power play is so important towards success in this discipline. So I went through and I crunched some numbers from this week to assess whether or not the power play is as important as we might think it is, or perhaps maybe it's too important or skews the results too much. So I'm going to use this parallel, if I could, to the Big Brother show, which, if you don't watch it, good for you. You shouldn't watch it. It's not a very good show, but I watch it. It's mindless summer entertainment. But there's an analyst, Taryn Armstrong, who talks about all the twists that they do on the show, where they want to keep the contestants on their toes and try twists. And one of the complaints he often has is that the twists that are added to the show simply allow the people who are already in power to retain that power. So in looking at the numbers, I'm wondering, does the power play simply allow the teams that are already better and better positioned to just enhance that advantage that they already have over the other teams, whereas the intended purpose is to allow comebacks? But I'm going to suggest here, based on the numbers, perhaps it actually inhibits comebacks.
Yes. Defensive use of the power play is always something that we talk about. And I'm interested to hear what the numbers bear out.
All right. So so what I've done for 2022, I went through and I looked at the top 3 teams in each pool. So in Pool A, that's Switzerland, Sweden, and Norway. And in Pool B, Scotland, Canada, and Germany. And I've compared them to the bottom 3 teams in each pool. So Korea, Finland, New Zealand in Group A, England, Spain, Turkey in Group B. And I've gone through, looked at their power play ranking, their shooting percentage ranking, as well as the points scored on power play, overall points scored, and hammer points scored. So I want to sort of walk through this a little bit. So the lowest ranked playoff team in power play ranking was Switzerland at 8th place. So the 6 playoff teams were 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th in the power play ranking. So that would make you think, hey, if you're good at the power play, you are going to make the playoffs, right? That seems like a natural response to that, right, Scott?
Stands to reason, yes.
Now, shooting percentage ranking, though, the same is also true. Germany was the worst of the 6 playoff teams in 8th place. So again, you had 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th. So that's kind of a wash. Shooting percentage, power play rank. I don't know if there's really any correlation there.
Okay, yeah. Who was the 3rd place shooting percentage team?
I don't know. You'd have to look that one up.
Okay.
I don't have that in front of me here.
Out of curiosity.
So let's look at the actual number of points that are scored then. So for the whole event, the average number of points that were scored on a power play was 1.13. More than 1, which you would expect on a power play.
Yeah.
But not quite 1. I thought it'd be closer to 1.5, but 1.13. Okay, fine. That's not bad. For the top 6 teams in the field, they were scoring on average on power plays 2.2 points per power play. Well, 2.15 if we want to get really specific. So basically 1 point more than the average in the field.
Yeah.
Whereas the bottom 6 teams on their power play, they were scoring 0.52 points per power play. So about just over half a point less than the average over the field.
Okay.
So you could say, well, yeah, sure, the top 6 teams are better. They're going to score more points. That makes sense. So that I thought, yeah, that's probably a reasonable thing to think, that, yeah, the better teams are better.
Yeah.
So here's where I had to go the next step. I had to go, or I didn't have to, I chose to do this. I went and looked at how many points does a team score when they typically have the hammer, or when they had the hammer the rest of the week.
Right.
And that's the better comparison. So are you scoring more or fewer points when you have the power play or the hammer?
That should be a pretty good estimate of the skill that the power play, or not the skill, I guess the advantage that the power play has.
So I went through for all these teams and I counted the number of ends they had the hammer, the number of points they scored while they had the hammer. And not surprisingly, again, the teams that finished in the playoffs did a lot better in terms of scoring and converting with the hammer. So Scotland was scoring 2.2 points per hammer, Canada 1.7, Germany 1.5. Switzerland was 1.6, Sweden 1.5, and Norway 1.7. So you're looking at least in worst case to make the playoffs of the playoff teams, you're scoring 1.5 points per hammer, which is pretty good. The best of the non-playoff teams was Korea at 1.1 points per hammer. Everyone else was down under a point per hammer. Again, which you would expect.
Yeah.
Because if you're converting a lot of hammers, you are, probably not going to finish last. So
You might also say though that those teams would have fewer hammer opportunities.
Well, they should have, but no, they should have more because they're not scoring as many points, right? They're giving up more.
No, that's what I mean.
steals.
The top teams would have fewer hammer opportunities.
Right. Yes, which actually doesn't
which
quite
maybe even makes
work
it
out
more impressive.
Well, like if you look at it, everyone ranges between the fewest was actually Canada, total hammers, 30 ends with the hammer, up to Germany. Now Germany played 12 games, so they have more games to play than Canada. But they had 45 ends with the hammer. So every one of these 12 teams ranged between 30 and 45 ends with the hammer.
Okay.
So if you take the averages of the top 6 teams and what they scored with the hammer versus power play, they scored on the power play an additional 4.439495 points for the power play. So when they had the power play, they were adding just under a half point to their total scores relative to what they would do with the hammer.
Okay.
The bottom 6 teams, when they had the power play, were getting negative 0.39548 points relative to what they were doing normally with the hammer. So the power play for those 6 teams was actually negative relative to what they were scoring without using the power play. So if you put these two together, you're looking at about 0.8-ish of a point difference that the top teams are benefiting additionally with the use of the power play than the bottom teams. So if the idea is that it's supposed to help bridge some of that gap or allow for comebacks, it's actually doing the opposite and exacerbating the difference between the top teams and the bottom teams based off of this year's usage.
Okay. Here's my first thought on that. That could it be that power play usage is not being optimized by the teams at the bottom of the standings, in that they save it for when they're already losing by a lot and are trying to harder to score multiples, which in turn doesn't always work because they're not as skilled?
It's certainly possible, no question about it, that they could be pushing it further and further if they are trying to. The other thing too is the bottom teams are using more power plays than the top teams. Canada only used 4 power plays. They only had 4 power plays over the course of the week, whereas the bottom teams use them every game. The top teams not always.
Yeah, and when you don't have as many hammers like the top teams, right, you don't have as many opportunities to use your power play if you're stealing every end.
Right. And if you're up too. So it's it kind of throws it a little bit. The other thing that throws this off too, I should say, is New Zealand. That New Zealand in their 9 power plays was actually -2 on net points. So they gave up more points on the power play than they scored. So that does throw it a little bit in terms of their relative strength of usage. But of the 6 bottom teams, 5 of them were negative in this stat. So they were doing 5 of the 6 teams were worse scoring with the power play than without. The only team that was better was Finland, and that was 0.15 points better. So not a huge difference. So I don't know. Maybe it is just a small sample size. Maybe it is the situation of the game deserves a better look. But I think on average, though, if the bottom teams are suffering from the power play or can't optimize it or can't use it, if the intended purpose is to allow for closer games, this is not actually accomplishing it, or at least didn't accomplish it this year in practice.
And using it the way that it's being used is also not helping things.
No.
So then let's come up with, Sean, what would be some ways that the power play could either be more aligned with its intended use, and we're assuming that it's intended for that, because why else would it be there? And then the other one is, should it still happen? So I will say that a better way to have the power play be deployable is to say you can only use it when you're losing, and see what happens with that.
But again, I don't know if that
probably wouldn't
necessarily
change things.
solve the problem. Yeah, because the teams that need the extra points are doing worse with it than without it. Like they're hurting themselves by using it, or at least they're not taking advantage of the opportunity given to them relative, again, to a normal end with the hammer. So by saying you have to use, because I don't think this is a defensive thing, because again, the top teams using it defensively, that would hurt what they're getting if they're using it defensively, because then they're playing defensively in the whole end. Maybe they're only going to score 1 or 2, or again, there is the end here and there where they're using it defensively. The other team goes really all in to try to steal, and then they crack a 4 or something. So that does happen and can skew the numbers here for sure. But I don't know if the idea of defensive usage versus aggressive usage is going to skew the numbers that much.
Okay. So then, do we need this?
That's what I wonder. I don't know if this is necessary. I don't know if it adds anything in terms of comebacks. Like we did see in one game, the Canadians were up 6-0. I think is when they played the Czechs, and the Czechs used it and scored 3 or something. And that in theory gets them back into the game. But honestly, like it can also be anticlimactic. Like, oh, game tied. Oh wait, the team with the hammer has the game tied in the 8th. The team with the hammer has the power play. Like, oh, okay, all right, game over. Like I don't know. Like I'm not sure it's adding as much as we originally maybe thought it was. And I actually wonder, does it actually detract a little bit from the game?
Yeah, it could be that. The other thing is, Sean, nobody's forcing any team to use the power play, right? So if you're a team that finds, hey, you know what, we're actually not good at drawing to the wing, so we're just not going to use it.
Yeah,
and this is an interesting study, some definite food for thought, but it's also a very small sample. So you're right. It would be nice to go back in past championships and in some of the spiels around the tour, and just see how those numbers bear out.
Yeah, and I think too of someone like John Morris, who kind of uses it exclusively defensively. And I think of someone like that. I mean, he's obviously studied it a lot, has a really good feel for it, but also would know all the analytics behind it. And is it actually as useful as an offensive tool as we think, or is it really better as a defensive tool? And or even worse, exacerbates the existing difference between the teams. Because I did go and look at 2021. I didn't do the full numbers of it, but I looked at the power play ranking versus the final standings versus the shooting ranking. And in 2021, the top 6 teams in shooting percentage were the playoff teams. Whereas in terms of power play ranking, the lowest of the playoff teams was Switzerland at 14th. Italy made the playoffs. They were in 12th on power play ranking. Scotland was 7th. Whereas you had a team like China missing the playoffs. They were 5th in the power play ranking. Hungary was 6th in power play efficiency. They finished 8th in their pool. We're playing a relegation game last year. Whereas, shooting percentage has a much greater correlation in terms of the 2021 one, and about the same this year in terms of where you're going to end up. So ultimately it is a make or miss sport and a make or miss event. But I just don't want to have something in there that enhances the difference already. Like if you're already making more shots and you're more likely to win, why add something that maybe increases that or decreases the likelihood of a team that is shooting a little worse from maybe making a comeback or maybe making a game closer. That's all that occurred to me as I was going through the numbers.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I'm interested to hear what other people think. Has anybody else thought of this, or is this brand new stuff? We're breaking ground, Sean, on the Game of Stones podcast.
I'll have to see. I'll reach out to Gertz. See, I don't know if how deep he's gone into the mixed doubles numbers, but he certainly has a good sense of them, and maybe there's something here, or maybe there's something here I'm missing too, in terms of the numbers. But this is what I was able to put together. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the next quad. I'm sure there will be some new additions or new rule tweaks to mixed doubles, just as we've seen in the 4-person game. So and next year is the time to do it if you're going to do anything on a test run basis. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens, particularly with the maybe qualifying events or tour events on mixed doubles as they increase. There's going to be more and more opportunities. I would not object to having a mixed doubles slam either, or at least a mixed doubles component to a slam at some point, and allow the slam to do its thing, where they just add rules here and there and try to innovate. So I think that'd be nice to see.
For sure, that'd be fun.
All right,
good work, Sean. Usually I crunch the numbers, but well done.
I felt it was my turn today to look into some of those numbers. So Scott, anything else from Geneva from the week that was?
Nothing else for me. Congratulations to Scotland, but another one in the books.
Indeed. And I'll tell you, Rona is the best. She's really good. So that's that for the Mixed Doubles World Championship. 2 events kicking off this week. One of them already has started. It's the Under-18 Canadian National Championship taking place out in Oakville, Ontario. 42 teams are participating, 21 on the men's side, 21 on the women's side. So a lot of provinces have multiple representatives there. Dean on the scene bumped into one of the teams at the CN Tower, Scott, when he was down there this weekend. So kind of cool.
Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, he was very excited. And so I asked him who recognized who. Did they recognize him as Dean on the scene, or did he recognize them as Team Saskatchewan? Presumably they're wearing their jackets. Otherwise, I'm guessing he wouldn't have recognized them.
I'm guessing not. Yes.
Yeah. But good job by all these teams, or a lot of these teams. The social media game out of Oakville has been very good so far. A little bit of chirping back and forth. The decorations in the hotel, the teams seem to be decorating their doors, so they seem to be having a really good time out in Oakville. Curling Canada is streaming this on YouTube as well. I don't know if it's geo-blocked. I don't believe it is, because there's no television coverage, so you should be able to watch this wherever you are in the world on the Curling Canada YouTube channel. But check it out if it's on in the afternoon or night, whatever it is. These are really good players, right? This is not, I think sometimes the real junior game really gets seen as, well, it's just like basically club players. No, these people would beat the hell out of us. And people of this age have beaten the hell out of me. And it's very awkward when their parents offer to buy me a drink after, because they can't. So,
yes.
These are really good players. There's going to be mistakes in these games. They're not going to be the cleanest games. It's not going to be Briar Scotty's World Championship quality, but these are going to be some really good, entertaining games over the course of the week.
Oh yeah, for sure. And having it on YouTube, awesome.
Yeah. All right. The other event that is going to kick off on Tuesday, I believe, is the final Grand Slam of the season. It is the Coyote Tractors Champions Cup. 12 men's, 12 women's teams are going to be participating in Olds, Alberta. Is that right, Scott?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Love it. So these teams all, in theory, had to win something to participate in this event. There's going to be 2 pools of 6 in both men's and women's play with a round robin. So the round robin is back in the Grand Slam for this event. So I kind of like that. I kind of like 5 games in the round robin instead of the 4 that we traditionally got in the past. I'll just run through the teams real quick. On the men's side, Nick and Dean, Bruce Mowat, Brad Gushu, Brendan Botcher, Kevin Cooey, Corey Dropkin, Karsten Sturmey, John Epping, Jason Gunlickson, Team Jacques. I'm not familiar with these guys. They won the Vesta Energy Classic in the fall. Team Kim from Korea, the Korean champions, and the Asia Pacific Championship. And then Team Jacobs, which won their spot by winning the very coveted sponsors exemption event. So it's a good championship to have.
Yeah, get that one on your belt, under your belt, on your trophy on your, shelf.
Yeah, what kind of trophy do you get for the sponsors exemption?
Probably a tractor trophy. Yeah, but this one, Sean, I'm looking on Curling Zone. They've got pools.
Yep.
I still like hate the Grand Slam website, and so I can't find anything there. But all Canadian teams in Pool A.
Oh wow!
And it's Epping, Gushu, Jacobs, Jacques, Kevin Cooey, and Karsten Sturmey. It seems like a bit of a murderer's row to me. Yeah. And then in the second pool, Botcher, Dropkin, Adine, Gunlickson, Kim, and Mowat. Another tough pool. These are all good teams that are going to be here at this event. So, are we picking this one? What are we doing?
Let's pick it. So again, they're going to go into the quarterfinal event here. So they're going to go from 12 to 8 after the round robin, and as always, from 8 to 4 to 2 and a winner. We should note too, last chance to see Brad Jacobs potentially ever at a Grand Slam, but certainly that version of the team. Same with Gushu, with a very tired Brent Gallant, and then Team Botcher. That's the end of them. Who else? Epping. That's the end of them. Gunlickson. Like all these teams. This is the last time you're going to see pretty much all these Canadian teams. But yeah, let's pick it, Scott. What do you want to do? Just the finals, or what do we normally do?
We usually do 4. Usually do 4 for the Grand Slams. So why don't we do that?
All right. And am I still ahead and therefore need to go first? Or did you catch me?
Yeah, you're ahead. Mixed? No, you're ahead by 3. We evened up on the mixed doubles. We both got 4 points out of a possible 7. So to recap, Sean, Cooey, Gunner, Jacobs, and
Mowat to win.
Okay. That's a real prediction there, Sean. Predicting Bruce Mowat to win a Grand Slam. It's just kind of what he does, right?
That's right.
But you know what? I like Nicholas Adine to win.
Okay.
Give me Gushu. Give me Botcher. And you know what? Give me Corey Dropkin.
Okay.
Drop into the playoffs.
Nice. And should note too, Corey Dropkin's mom was the lead on that American team that won a silver medal at the seniors. So that was one of the parent things that we missed when we were talking about it in the preview. So kind of exciting.
Very good for her.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Scott, do you have the pools there on the women's side? Because I just have the list overall.
Yeah, I have the pools here. So we'll talk Pool A first. I don't have how they got there, so maybe you can cover me on that. But crowd favorite, Madalena Dupont, Anna Hasselberg, Amber Holland, Jennifer Jones, Tabitha Peterson, and Silvana Tiranzoni.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's a pretty good pool. And then Pool B, Corey Christensen, Carrie Anerson, Tracy Fleury, Gim Yunji, Rachel Homan, and then Kim Yunjun. 2 Korean teams there.
Yeah, so you will notice that the Olympic champions are not participating. Eve Muirhead and her team, which obviously the Olympics would have gotten them in, they are not participating in this. So it looks to me like it's Team Gim that is the additional spot. They won the Boundary Ford Curling Classic in the fall, and that looks to me to be the team or the event that was added to this list of champions. No sponsors exemption here on the women's side, just on the men's side. And if that's the tip of the cap to Brad Jacobs, I'm okay with that. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you who got the sponsors exemption, but if there is none, there is none.
No. So those are the teams. Those are the pools for this one. I am going to go, Scott, with Rachel Homan to win, and then give me Carrie Anerson in the playoffs along with Tracy Fleury and Madeline DuPont.
You gotta pick DuPont, right? When you're there.
Got to.
You got to. So I'm gonna take Jennifer Jones, Sean, to win. Her last game with her team, or last go around. So maybe they can put it all together and cap it off with a victory. I'm also going to take Anna Hasselberg to make the playoffs because they just won one of these events. Give me Silvana Tirinzoni because they're really good at curling. And finally, sure, I'll take Carrie Anerson to not give up too many points to you when you inevitably win.
Fair. I like it. So there you have it. Our picks for the final event of the season. Do we have any stakes on these, Scott? We make these picks all the time. We keep track. Are there any stakes involved at all?
I mean, we can have stakes. How do you like yours? Medium?
Medium's good. Yeah,
medium rare.
Medium's good.
Okay.
Medium rare to medium. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Okay. So come on over one weekend and we'll grill up some steaks.
Right,
oh, you mean for who wins? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that could be the stakes that you buy me a steak.
Steaks are the stakes.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So there you have it. That's the goings on with this final Grand Slam. I would just caution anybody who might think of watching this as like it's a really like big deal, a serious event. This is going to be the Grand Slam version, I think, of the Continental Cup. Like teams, they're going to want to win, sure, and they're going to try hard, but this is going to be a pretty relaxed feel. So
there's a lot of money on the line, Sean. A lot of money. So I take what you're saying, but the money talks.
Sure, but they win money at the Continental Cup too, and they're pretty chill there too. So yeah, I'm just saying, this should be a fun event. If you're out there in Olds and you're going, this is a good one to go to because of that. I think a lot of the teams will be pretty relaxed and having a good time. And again, last time to see some players in general, not only Brad Jacobs, but the front end of the Swiss team on the women's side of Team Tirinzoni, Barbazat and Neuenschwander are stepping away from the game. I guess they just get tired of winning world championships. It's like when I was a teenager playing Madden and I won the Super Bowl every time because I was playing on easy, and you just get bored with it. That must be the case. Just get bored of winning.
Yeah, they're playing on easy for sure.
Yeah,
making it look like it anyway.
Yeah. So last chance to see some of these folks. So if you're out there, check it out. Or I think the TV coverage should be good. I think Sportsnet, for the most part, does a really good job. So there you go, Scott. That's all the goings on, I think, unless you can think of something else.
Just real quickly, the World Wheelchair Mixed Doubles Championship is going on right now in Finland. And as I look at the standings here, the top of Group A, Hungary and Italy, and at the top of Group B, Norway and Slovakia. So nice to see some non-traditional curling powers at the top of the standings there. 5 games into a 9-game round robin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9-game round robin. So about halfway through there and going strong. We'll see how the rocks play out come the end of the week.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned that. You're right. That's really cool that this has been added to the schedule. I don't know what the process of adding a Paralympic discipline is. And I also don't know if the Paralympics are long enough to add another curling discipline in. But if possible, that would be spectacular if we could have the mixed doubles discipline at the Paralympics as well. But again, I don't know logistically, because whereas the Olympics are the 2 weeks with 3 weekends. So that's 17 days. Plus they started before the Olympics anyway. You could fit all that stuff in. The Paralympics, I believe, are 10 days. So I don't know if you could fit in a mixed doubles discipline without either a second venue or doing it at a club, but that's not as much fun. Like you want to be on that, in the arena there. But I guess you could. There's nothing preventing you from starting the thing early for the Paralympics too.
Yeah. And we'll see how this goes. See how much interest it drums up around the member associations. And yeah, hopefully we do see it at a Paralympics one day.
Yeah, and Ryan and Jonathan, or Ryan, I guess, tweeted out how to watch it. I retweeted that, but it's there. It's available to be watched. Not quite the typical way for world events, but you can check it out. The streaming is not, fully professional with all the camera angles and all that, but it is available. That if you want to check it out, you can. So that's a good start for the first time that they're running this event. That it is going to be available to folks who want to watch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I think that's going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you have not yet, please do subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Do likes, ratings, comments, all that good stuff. Helps other people find the show, keeps us growing here. You can also head on over to GameOfStonesPod.com. All of our past episodes are there. Plus, if you click on the merch tab, all the merch is there, with all proceeds from the t-shirts to Food Banks Canada. Everything else proceeds to the Sandra Schmerler Foundation, and we are matching all of those proceeds, so you can check that out. You can also follow along on social media at Game of Stones Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to let us know what you want to hear on the show, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. Scott, we did hear from Jerry, as I mentioned, from Team Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
One thing in his email, too, that he mentioned in our family connections, not only did we miss the Dropkins, their skip, the team for Team Belgium, John Robillard, is the father of Melanie Robillard, who is an Olympian and a world and Euro gold medalist playing for Andreas Schopp. So another connection, that we missed.
Yes, that name does sound familiar.
Yeah. So and she was over there in Geneva watching and supporting. So really cool that all these family connections were there, seniors at the seniors event. So thanks, Jerry, for pointing that one out, and just love to see it. It really is a family sport at this point, right? Like, I guess it's always been this way, but that's how people tend to get into it. And we want to broaden that out, certainly, to have more people come to the sport. But it is cool to see these the generations of great players in the sport.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's going to be it for this week. We'll be back with you again next week as we shift into our summer schedule of probably Wednesday releases. We'll sort of announce that next week, though, but we're going to shift into the more steady summer schedule. So looking forward to some fun ideas over the course of the next few months. So please do stick along with us. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.